First contact. The Galactic Confederation had ruled the three spiral arms of the Milky Way for over 12,000 years. 22 species formed its council, each bringing unique abilities and technologies to create what they believed was an unassailable empire. Their fleets numbered in the thousands, their worlds in the hundreds. They had encountered 47 other intelligent species during their expansion, and each one eventually submitted to Confederation rule, willingly or otherwise. High Admiral Zix Von of the Atraxian species stood on the command deck of the Eternal Dominion, the flagship of the Confederation's Third Fleet. His four upper limbs were folded in a posture of contemplation, while his lower limbs shifted nervously on the polished deck. 6 eyes, arranged in a perfect hexagon on his crimson face, blinked in sequence as he studied the holographic display before him. "Unknown vessel still maintains its approach vector, Admiral," reported Commander Tulla, her translucent body glowing with anxiety patterns. "It will reach the Helios checkpoint in approximately 6 hours. Have they responded to our hails?" Zix Von asked, though he already knew the answer. "No, Admiral. We've transmitted on all standard frequencies. They either cannot receive our signals or are choosing to ignore them." The Admiral's skin darkened slightly, a sign of concern among his kind. This was unprecedented. New species didn't simply appear at the borders of Confederation space with vessels of this size. The scanners indicated the ship was nearly 5 kilometers in length, larger than any Confederation vessel except for colony arcs. "Order the defensive fleet to maintain position. I want continuous scans. If this vessel so much as adjusts its trajectory by a microradian, I want to know." As Zix Von issued his commands across the galaxy, the Confederation Council had already convened an emergency session. The Grand Chamber on the capital world of Nexus Prime hummed with anxious conversation as representatives of the 22 member species debated what this new arrival might mean. Grand Counselor Thelanor, the eldest of the luminary, hovered above her designated platform, her body composed of crystalline light formations that shifted between blue and violet, a sign of deep concern. "The unknown vessel has maintained its approach for 3 standard days," she announced, her voice resonating through the chamber. "Its power signatures exceed anything in our database, and its whole composition includes elements we cannot identify." The Mrekti representative, a bulky arthropoid with mandibles that clicked nervously, raised an appendage. "Are we certain this is a first contact scenario? Could it be a lost colony or perhaps a previously encountered species with new technology?" "Impossible," replied Kazin Vel, head of Confederation Intelligence. The Saurian's scales rippled with conviction as he stepped forward. "We have genetic and technological profiles of every species we've encountered. This vessel matches nothing in our records." "Then we must prepare for war," declared the Volgorian representative, a species known for their militaristic tendencies. "Any species that approaches with a vessel of that size clearly has aggressive intentions." Thilanor's crystalline form pulsed with disagreement. "We do not know their intentions. For 12 millennia, the Confederation has prided itself on peaceful integration when possible. We should at least attempt communication before assuming hostilities." The debate continued for hours, but ultimately, the Council reached consensus. They would prepare for conflict while attempting peaceful contact. A delegation would be assembled to meet the newcomers, while the Confederation's military forces mobilized discreetly. Back at the Helios checkpoint, Admiral Zix Von received new orders from the Council. He was to lead the first contact team personally, an assignment that filled him with both pride and apprehension. "Admiral," called his sensor officer, "the vessel is dropping out of FTL." The command deck fell silent as all eyes turned to the main view screen. The fabric of space seemed to wrinkle, then tear as the unknown ship decelerated into normal space. For the first time, they could see it clearly. The vessel was unlike anything in Confederation records. Its hull was a deep, matte black that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The design was angular and asymmetric, with strange geometric protrusions that defied conventional naval architecture. No visible weapons could be detected, yet every instinct in Zixvan's body screamed that this was a warship. "Magnify," he ordered, his voice barely audible. The view screen zoomed in on what appeared to be the command section. Strange symbols were visible along the hull. TEF Horizon. "We're receiving a transmission," announced Commander Tulla, surprise evident in her luminescent patterns. "On screen," ordered Zixvan, straightening his posture. The view screen flickered, and an alien face appeared. The being looked surprisingly similar to several Confederation species, with a central head, two forward-facing eyes, and a mouth. But subtle differences were immediately apparent. This species had a strange covering of fur on the top of their head, and their skin tones varied in ways that suggested natural adaptation rather than genetic engineering. "This is Captain Elena Reyes of the Terran Expeditionary Force vessel Horizon." The alien spoke in perfect Standard Galactic, shocking everyone on the command deck. "We come in peace and seek diplomatic contact with your governing body." Admiral Zixvan felt his heart racing. How did they know the Confederation language? How long had they been observing before making contact? "I am High Admiral Zixvan of the Galactic Confederation. Your arrival is unexpected. How do you come to speak our language?" The alien, this human, smiled, revealing flat teeth. The expression was difficult to interpret, but Zixvan's xenopsychology training suggested it was meant to be non-threatening. "We've been monitoring your communications for some time, Admiral. Your encryption protocols are impressive but not impenetrable. We thought it best to learn your language before initiating contact to avoid any misunderstandings." The implication was clear. These humans had been watching, learning, and analyzing the Confederation without detection. The thought sent a chill through Zixvan's exoskeleton. "I see," he managed to reply. "On behalf of the Confederation Council, I welcome you to our territory. However, I must inform you that approaching our borders in a vessel of your configuration without prior notification is considered a potentially hostile act." Captain Reyes' expression shifted subtly. "We apologize for any alarm we may have caused. The Horizon is an exploration vessel with defensive capabilities appropriate for venturing into unknown space. We come seeking knowledge and potential allies, not conflict." "Yet you approach in what is clearly a warship," Zixvan countered. "Where we come from?" "Admiral, the distinction between exploration and defense is often blurred by necessity. The universe is vast and not always friendly. We prefer to be prepared." Before Zixvan could respond, a message from Nexus Prime arrived. The Council had authorized him to invite a small delegation from the human vessel to a formal meeting on the diplomatic station orbiting Helios II. "Captain Reyes, the Confederation Council extends an invitation for you and a small delegation to join us for diplomatic discussions. We are transmitting coordinates for a neutral meeting facility." The human nodded. "We accept your invitation. Transmit the protocols, and we will comply." As the transmission ended, Commander Tulla approached the Admiral. "Sir, our detailed scans still cannot penetrate their hull completely, but what we've learned is concerning." "Explain," Zixvan ordered. "Their propulsion system operates on principles our physicists cannot fully comprehend. The energy readings suggest capabilities far beyond what their apparent technological level should allow. And there are spaces within their ship that appear to be empty, yet shielded from our scans." The Admiral turned back to the view screen, where the Horizon loomed against the starfield, dark and imposing. "They're hiding something," he murmured. "Alert all commands. Maintain defensive posture but take no aggressive action." And he added after a moment's hesitation, "Begin evacuation preparations for civilian facilities in this sector, quietly." 6 hours later, a small shuttle departed from the Horizon, carrying the human delegation to the diplomatic station. As Admiral Zixvan prepared to meet them, he received a private communication from Kazan Vel, the intelligence director. "Admiral, Our analysts have been working on the limited data we have about these humans. Their physiological readings are extraordinary. They appear to have evolved on a high-gravity world with extreme climate variations. Their cellular structure suggests remarkable radiation resistance and immune response. In short, they are physically adapted to conditions that would kill most Confederation species. Are they a threat? Zixvan asked directly. There was a pause before Kazenvel responded. Any species that can build a ship like the Horizon and approach undetected through our sensor networks is a potential threat. But there's something else. Something in their genetic structure suggests they may be related to the ancients. The Admiral felt his heart skip. The ancients, the mysterious precursor civilization whose ruins and technologies had helped the Confederation advance millennia ahead of where they would otherwise be. If these humans were somehow connected. I understand, Zixvan replied. I will proceed with caution. As the human shuttle docked at the diplomatic station, representatives from 12 Confederation species prepared to meet these newcomers. No one spoke of it openly, but each representative carried the same thought. For the first time in 12,000 years, the Galactic Confederation felt afraid. Revelations and consequences. The diplomatic chamber aboard Station Helios was designed to accommodate all known species in the Confederation. Its adaptive environment could shift temperature, gravity, and atmospheric composition in localized fields around each delegation. For this historic meeting, the chamber had been arranged in a semicircle, with the human delegation placed at the focal point. 5 humans entered, led by Captain Elena Reyes. They wore simple dark blue uniforms with minimal insignia, a stark contrast to the elaborate ceremonial attire of most Confederation representatives. The humans moved with a fluid grace that seemed almost predatory to the watching aliens. Most notable was their apparent comfort in the station's standard gravity, which was calibrated for average Confederation physiology and should have been uncomfortably light for a high-gravity species. Grand Counselor Thilanor initiated the proceedings, her crystalline form pulsing with formal patterns of welcome. On behalf of the 22 species of the Galactic Confederation, I extend greetings to the representatives of humanity. We are curious about your people and your sudden appearance in our space. Captain Reyes stepped forward. Thank you for your welcome, Grand Counselor. Earth and humanity are honored to make contact with your civilization. We have prepared informational data packets about our homeworld, history, and culture for your review. One of the humans behind her, a tall man with dark skin, stepped forward with a small device which he placed on the central table. It projected a holographic image of a blue-green world orbiting a yellow star. This is Earth, our homeworld. Reyes continued. We evolved there approximately 300,000 years ago. Our civilization achieved spaceflight just over 500 years ago, and we have been exploring our local stellar neighborhood since then. The Mrekti representative clicked his mandibles skeptically. Your vessel employs technologies that suggest a much higher development level than a mere 5 centuries of spaceflight would allow. Humans advance. Quickly, Reyes replied with what the aliens were beginning to recognize as a smile. Especially when necessary. And what necessity drove this advancement? Asked Admiral Zixvan, who had been observing silently until now. Captain Reyes hesitated, exchanging glances with her delegation before responding. Approximately 300 years ago, we detected evidence of non-human intelligence in our galaxy. The signals were faint, but unmistakable. They appeared to be communications between starships. Your starships, we now believe. Murmurs spread through the Confederation representatives. Their communications were supposed to be undetectable at such distances. Our history has taught us caution, Reyes continued. When a more advanced civilization discovers a less advanced one, the outcome is rarely favorable for the latter. We accelerated our technological development as a precautionary measure. You built warships because you feared us, asked Thilanor, her crystalline form flickering with concern. We built ships capable of defending Earth because we didn't know you, corrected Reyes. The Horizon is primarily an exploration vessel with defensive capabilities. The Volgorian representative snorted, a sound that translated as disbelief across multiple species. Your exploration vessel has energy signatures that suggest weapon capabilities exceeding our most advanced battlecruisers. Captain Rice smiled again, but this time there was no warmth in the expression. As I said, we believe in being prepared. The tension in the chamber increased palpably. Kezenvel, the intelligence director, leaned forward. Our scans detected unusual gaps in your vessel's interior. Areas that appear empty yet are heavily shielded from external observation. Perhaps you could explain these curiosities. Privacy is valued in human culture, Rise replied smoothly. Not everything is meant for external scanning. Before the interrogation could continue, the tall human who had presented the data device stepped forward again. If I may, he said, I believe a demonstration might help establish trust between our peoples. This is Dr. Marcus Chen, our chief scientist. Rise introduced him. Dr. Chen activated the device again, but this time the hologram changed to display what appeared to be a three-dimensional equation set, one that made several of the scientifically inclined representatives lean forward in sudden interest. This is a simplified model of our FTL drive's operating principles, Chen explained. We call it the Alcubierre-Chandrasekhar warp. It creates a localized distortion in spacetime that allows us to travel distances that would otherwise take decades or centuries. The luminary scientist present, a junior member of Thelanor's species, flashed with patterns of astonishment. This is impossible. You're describing practical manipulation of negative energy states. Not impossible, Chen corrected gently. Just difficult. We discovered the theoretical framework 300 years ago. It took us nearly a century to develop the practical technology. The revelation stunned the Confederation representatives into silence. Their own FTL technology, based on principles discovered in ancient ruins, was effective but crude by comparison. If the humans were telling the truth, their method was orders of magnitude more efficient and elegant. Admiral Zixvan's tactical mind immediately grasped the strategic implications. A fleet using such technology could appear anywhere in Confederation space with minimal warning. The defensive networks that had protected them for millennia were suddenly obsolete. Why share this with us? He asked, his voice carefully controlled. Rice took over again. As a gesture of good faith, we come seeking allies and trading partners, not conquests. Earth is one world, impressive by our standards, but nothing compared to your hundreds. We have no interest in challenging the Confederation's authority in this region of space. The diplomatic discussions continued for hours, with the humans sharing carefully selected information about their civilization, while deflecting more probing questions about their military capabilities and true intentions. As the meeting progressed, a subtle shift occurred among the Confederation representatives, from dismissive superiority to cautious respect. Then, without warning, emergency alarms blared throughout the station. Counselors, announced the station's AI. Sensors have detected a quantum disturbance approaching at superluminal velocities. Configuration matches historical records of void Harbinger vessels. The effect on the Confederation representatives was immediate and dramatic. Several species known for their stoicism showed visible signs of panic. The Volgorian representative, earlier so bellicose, now appeared ashen. Impossible, whispered Thelanor. The Harbingers have not been seen in this sector for 7,000 years. Captain Rice looked sharply at her team, then back to the Confederation representatives. What are these void Harbingers? It was Admiral Zixvan who answered, his professional composure barely masking his fear. A species from beyond the galactic rim. They appeared briefly millennia ago, destroyed dozens of worlds, then vanished as suddenly as they came. Our historians believe they were only scouts for a larger force. And now they're back, Rice stated flatly. The station's AI continued its emotionless report. Void Harbinger vessel will emerge from superluminal travel in approximately 12 minutes. Estimated size, 20 kilometers. Weapon signatures detected, powering up. The diplomatic chamber erupted in chaos as representatives called their governments and military commands. Admiral Zixban watched as Captain Rice and her team huddled together, speaking rapidly in their native language. After a brief but intense discussion, Rice approached him directly. "Admiral, the Horizon can help." Zixban's 6 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of surprise in his species. "Your exploration vessel, against a Harbinger ship. As you suspected from the beginning, Admiral, the Horizon is more than it appears," Rice admitted. "Those shielded sections your scans couldn't penetrate. They house weapons systems we hoped never to need in peaceful contact." Before Zixban could respond, Dr. Chen joined them, holding a communication device. "Captain, the Horizon has completed analysis of the approaching vessel. Its technology signature matches the ancient ruins we studied. This confirms our theories." Captain Rice nodded grimly, then turned back to the Admiral. "We need to coordinate our defense. The Horizon has sent an emergency transmission to Earth. Additional ships will arrive, but not in time for this engagement." For a moment, Admiral Zixban hesitated. Could this be an elaborate human deception? But the approaching Harbinger vessel was very real, and the Confederation fleet in this sector, while numerous, was not designed to face such an ancient enemy. "What do you propose?" he finally asked. "Joint Command. Your ships have local knowledge and numbers. The Horizon has technology that might effectively counter the Harbingers." Within minutes, a joint operations center had been established on the diplomatic station. The elegant chamber for peaceful discussions had been transformed into a war room. Representatives from both the Confederation and humanity worked side by side, military protocol transcending species differences. As the Void Harbinger ship emerged from superluminal travel, its massive form eclipsed nearby stars. It resembled a titanic crystalline structure, faceted surfaces glowing with internal energies. Immediately, it began launching smaller craft, hundreds of them, each the size of a standard Confederation cruiser. "Defensive Formation Alpha 7, ordered Admiral Zixban, and the Confederation fleet moved with practiced precision. Horizon moving to support position," Captain Rice reported. "Activating primary defense systems." What happened next would be described in Confederation historical records as the luminous moment. The human vessel, previously so dark it seemed to absorb light, suddenly blazed with energy. Fields of coherent force extended outward, intersecting with the Confederation ship's defensive shields, and somehow strengthening them. When the first wave of Harbinger attack craft fired their main weapons, beams of coruscating energy that had once shattered worlds, the combined human Confederation defenses held. Then the Horizon attacked. From recessed ports along its angular hull, weapons of unknown design fired. Not energy beams or conventional projectiles, but what appeared to be localized distortions in space itself. Where these distortions intersected with Harbinger vessels, the alien craft simply ceased to exist, collapsing into themselves as space-time warped catastrophically around them. The battle lasted less than 20 minutes. The Harbinger mothership, witnessing the destruction of its attack craft, attempted to retreat, only to find its superluminal capabilities neutralized by precisely calculated distortion fields from the Horizon. Crippled and unable to escape, the ancient enemy was systematically dismantled by combined fire from the human vessel and the Confederation fleet. In the aftermath, as damage reports came in and the wounded were treated, Captain Rice and Admiral Zixban stood together on the observation deck of the diplomatic station, watching as teams from both their civilizations began examining the debris of the defeated Harbinger vessel. "You knew they were coming," Zixban said. "It wasn't a question." Rice nodded slowly. "Not specifically, no. But we knew something was out there. The same signals that led us to discover your Confederation also contained echoes of something else, something older and far more dangerous. That's why you built ships like the Horizon," the Admiral realized. "Not to threaten us, but to defend against them. Humanity has a saying, Admiral: hope for peace, prepare for war. The horizon represents both principles. Zixfan turned all 6 eyes toward the human captain. The weapons you deployed, they manipulate space-time itself. Even the ancients, from whom much of our technology is derived, never demonstrated such capabilities. Captain Rice smiled faintly. Dr. Chen has a theory about that. He believes the ancients you speak of, and the precursor civilization that influenced Earth's early development, may be one and the same. If true, perhaps humanity simply took their legacy in a different direction than the Confederation did. In the days that followed, the relationship between humanity and the Galactic Confederation transformed fundamentally. What had begun as suspicion and fear evolved into wary respect, then genuine alliance. Additional human vessels arrived, each as impressive as the horizon, each crewed by beings who seemed simultaneously familiar and alien to Confederation species. 6 months after first contact, a permanent human embassy was established on Nexus Prime. 1 year later, Earth became the 23rd member of what was now called the Interstellar Confederation, with humanity taking its place in the council chambers not as subjects, but as equals. And throughout Confederation space, a phrase began to circulate among military personnel and civilians alike, spoken with a mixture of awe and relief. Thank the stars for Terra.